And we welcome in our two guests from the Blues women, Eloise Blackwell, and from the Chiefs women, Hazel Tubic. We've got history to be made again at Eden Park this weekend with a Super Rugby women's match for the first ever time. 4:35 kick-off. You will not want to miss it. Eloise, I'll start with you. How significant is this match for the current players and for those who have been in the past, waited for something like this to happen?
Yeah, this is pretty huge. And I guess being in the game for a long time, it seems like only the natural progression. Yeah, it's going to be pretty special. And we had our welcome into the Blues whānau yesterday, and we had some of the members from the boys there. And like straight away, we felt welcome. It was just awesome to have and start building that relationship with them. And yeah, there's already talks about what it could potentially look like moving forward into next year.
And for you, Hazel, you've been in with the Chiefs, and I think it's Sam Kane as well. You had the jerseys out and all of that. Do you feel like fully fledged Chiefs?
Yeah, they've been very welcoming to us, and so it was awesome for Sam to come talk to us yesterday and talk about the jersey and everything it means, and even spoke a bit about the rivalry that they have between the Blues there as well. So that kind of got us geared up, and we were almost getting pumped, ready to run out there right then.
Do you think that, Super Rugby is a natural progression? The thing that worries me the most is I love the Whare Cup. I think I see a scattering of our top women playing and then some of the new ones coming through. Do you think the franchise or the Super Series might break that down too quick?
No, well, I think there's got to be there's a bit of a gap between the FPC and then going on to international level. So there's got to be something where we get a bit more competitive rugby in there from FPC. Although, like, we all love FPC and our club, playing for our club, I think the next step, we really need to push for a level up.
So on that note then, Eloise, I mean, although it's exciting, it's the first game, but is it also frustrating? Have you had any sort of correspondence in terms of whether this is going to go, whether this is not just the last time it's going to happen? I mean, that must be sort of frustrating.
Yeah, there has been some talk around a potential for a Super League to start next year, which I think will be awesome. As Hazel said, like, two things need to happen. We either need to get more internationals against the first tier nations, or we go into a semi-professional or professional type league based around the super structure. Because, yeah, FPC is awesome. We love playing FPC, but in terms of the level, it's just not quite at international level where we need to be to compete against these other countries.
I think it's going to be the forerunner of exactly that. I spoke to someone in the New Zealand Rugby Union women's program today about what their plans were post this game, and they're looking at semi-professional competition next year. It's interesting that women's creating opportunities for the players is one thing. I do have a bit of concern that there's still a lot of blokes in the way in terms of stifling the progress of women in the game. I note that only 2 of the 13 Whare Cup coaches are women. Cheryl Smith, or Cheryl Waka used to be at Northland, and Mel Bossman, I think, at Tasman. Mel Nata, who's, if I recall rightly, said a PhD in rocks or something.
Was it rocks? Paper, scissors, rocks. It's actually a real positive in our game. Fastest growing part of rugby in New Zealand. It's fantastic. So, the semi-professional, would you want to see that at the end of the Whare Cup so that you can actually get... Because the trouble is with Super Rugby, as we've known it, sometimes can take the big players away from our Bunnings Cup, right? So do you see it mirroring it, or would you like to play your Whare and then play Super?
Yeah, it's probably a good question that you raised, because in the discussions that we've had already, it's proposed that it's at the start of the year to run alongside the men, which for some players, myself included, I like to enjoy my summertime, so it would be quite difficult to come back from a good old summer at the barrier into a semi-professional league. But in terms of progression, like, we go club, FPC, that could work towards the end of the year, definitely.
Am I right in thinking that, so that plan in Hazel is it would be sort of a short, sharp 5-weeker that is in the pipeline, and that's because you guys have jobs as well, right? I mean, we don't forget that the women's players still have jobs, but that you have a 5-week where it is a fully, you take 5 weeks off work if you've got an employer who can do it, and you've got counties rugby, so of course they're going to let you off, right?
Yeah.
And then from there you go into perhaps a mid-year internationals, and then Farah Palmer from there.
Yeah, well, I mean, that would be ideal, but some of the talks are still that you just meet up a couple of times a week, so whether or not girls are going to have to move to the other franchises because, you know, they can't make a spot in those ones, those are probably discussions or thoughts they're going to have to come up with, whether that's really viable for girls to be able to get off work and stuff like that, because, you know, not everyone's jobs are going to let them leave for 5 weeks and still keep their job there. So that's definitely like issues that we've got to come across, and yeah, so we'll have to see.
And so the English, Irish, they all have Six Nations. Are they full pro, semi-pro? I mean, are you starting to notice a gap starting because of those things, or?
I think
England and France are basically fully
France,
pro, yeah, right.
But the others, no.
Yeah, and that's where that gap is for those sides, and because England and France have got a semi-pro competition that they play in outside of Six Nations, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's have a look at this game though on the weekend, because I look at these teams on paper and they look like they'll be very, very different. You've got a Blues man and a hybrid. a Chiefs guy over there. So what do the Blues bring to Eden Park on Saturday afternoon, Ella?
You can't look any further than our forward pack, to be honest. Star-studded front row, right through to some really exciting youthful players in the Lucy's there, backed up by the senior at the back, Charmaine McMenamin. But across our back line too, just some awesome young talent, and yeah, it's going to be some dominated by the forwards with some free-flowing backs rugby.
Chiefs have got a hell of a loose trio though, Hazel.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for coaches to kind of pick who they're going to play there. So we definitely, yeah, like Ella said, we know that their forwards are going to be very dominant. So, you know, we've got to work our way around that and how we could kind of, you know, get them moving around the park a bit maybe. And then, yeah, and we've got some backs there that could expose their backs maybe, well, hopefully, so that's the plan. But I think in general it's going to be a close game, and would be hard to pick a winner. Obviously, I'm backing my team, Chiefs Mana, but yeah, it's going to be an awesome game to watch. And at the end of the day, we just want to promote women's rugby and put on a spectacle for everyone to see. So
what's the week then? I mean, you're not semi-professional this week. I hope you're in camp all week, are you? How does it work?
No way. To work tomorrow. As per, just like a normal week.
So what happens after this? Because you would have ramped up the training for this one game, and then so you go back to playing club rugby, and that, and obviously the level would have dropped. So how do you keep that standard?
Yeah, that's been kind of the balancing act that we've had for the last few years. Like, I think we're quite fortunate in our Blues team that a lot of the girls are from Auckland, so we do a lot of our like HP training together, so we know the girls quite well, and we've only had to slot in, I think, 6 other players from Northland and Harbour. But yeah, that is the balancing act.
I commentated the first women's NPC game.
That
was in the era who was playing. Vanessa Coots was playing. Louisa Wall, now member of Parliament.
Yep. Mel
Robinson.
Yeah, Mel Robinson.
Blindside flanker, Angry Mel. Yeah. Angry Mel Robinson in the number 6 jersey. And then she came into commentary, and I'll give her a stick for years after that. It's all good. So it's been really interesting watching the personalities and watching the players, and in particular, and this is no disrespect to the old era, but just watching the development of the athletes as well in time over the course of the, you know, they're fitter, stronger. So yeah, look, this is great. I hope there's a good crowd there, and I hope they get tremendous support.
Yeah, get there. 4:35 kickoff at Eden Park, and you're basically going to see Blackfern up against Blackfern, and of course they're vying for places in a World Cup squad next year. So it is the best of women's rugby, and history will be made at Eden Park when the Blues Wahine take on the Chiefs Wahine for the first time. We absolutely cannot wait, and we thank you so much, Eloise Blackwell from the Blues, Hazel Tubic from the Chiefs. All the very best for Saturday afternoon.